Roughing It. And really all this is going to be about is J.A. Jack Slade and the little town of Julesburg. You can visit Julesburg today. Got a lot of history, Julesburg. Julesburg was first settled by Jules Benny, a trader, set up a trading post there, set up the trading post, and then very swiftly got a reputation as a criminal, as an outlaw, as a killer, as a murderer, as a person who waylaid passing travellers. And somehow, when the stage line was coming through, he wangled himself a job as the head of the way station for Julesburg. And what do you know? All the horses kept disappearing. So the stage line decided to send in somebody to sort it all out. So they sent in J.A. Jack Slade. So Slade is described in many cases, even by Mark Twain in '61, as being polite, well-dressed, assertive, a forthright man. When he gets to Julesburg, he sets about righting wrongs. Outlaws are arrested, are hung, are shot. Horses that have been stolen, many stolen horses and stock are recovered. And he is seen to be something of a shining light in that he cleans up Julesburg, and the stage line thinks he's terrific because it turns out to be one of the most efficient way stations, and it is just a good story, a good story, a good story. But what I'm going to leave you, not going to leave you, but the point I'm going to make here is a side trip to a Hollywood movie. We love to chuck in the movies, and so is there anyone watching this that's not a Clint Eastwood fan? Sudden Impact, about a bunch of cops that decide the justice system doesn't work, they're going to take the law into their own hands, and so they start bumping off criminals. When the boss of this little group says to Dirty Harry, "I thought you would have been the first one to do this with us, Harry." And Harry says, "Trouble with vigilantism is when do you shoot your neighbour because his dog peed on your lawn." He didn't say peed, but you get my drift. And so basically what happened is, yes, when he first got there, J.A. Jack Slade is seen as being the saviour, the bringer of justice. But as the years pass, he starts thinking about dogs peeing on his lawn because he gets a fearful reputation for short-temperedness, anger, violence. There are many stories of him riding his horse into saloons and stores and causing mayhem, the horse doing all sorts of damage, him shooting his guns in premises. There's a story that Jules, the man whose job Slade took, Jules tried to ambush Slade and shot him. Various stories about, was he shot with a shotgun, was he shot with a handgun, was he shot once, was he shot 5 times. The fact is Slade was shot, incapacitated, thought to be dead, but actually recovered. When Slade recovered, he eventually, again, conflicting stories whether it was him or some of his cohorts, but Jules was brought to where Slade was and was tied to a post. And then the stories are that Slade, who was a crack shot with a handgun, individually shot each of Jules's fingers off before he walked up to him, put the gun in Jules's mouth and blew his head off. So again, lots of versions about how Jules was killed. But the reality is, Jules was killed, Slade was around the place when it happened. So in the end, read The Vigilantes of Montana if you're interested in the full story. But in the end, Montana is not yet a state, it's still a territory, and so a bunch of civilised, law-abiding people decide they've got to get rid of all the criminals, they're going to lynch them, hang them, and Slade is one of them, and he is captured and hung, and that's the end of J.A. Jack Slade. Many thanks for watching. Come back soon, watch another bizarre, twisted, demented, cut in half story. from Trooper Cody. Make a comment, subscribe, click like till we meet again. Many thanks. Cheers.